Hi, my name is Mia Prado, and I'll be giving my news and media discussion for this week. So to start off, I do want to kind of just give a little preview as to what I'm going to be talking about. So my first article is, should the president have nuclear sole authority? We asked 530 incoming Congress members. And this is my article that ties into the Frontline film for the week. And then my second article is called Trump's Tariffs Pause is Less Than Meets the Eye. That's another New York Times editorial, and this one deals with my international issue. And thirdly is my article of interest called The Authoritarian Endgame on Higher Education. So those are the three articles that I will be touching on. So we can start off with my first one. Basically, just a little summary about this article is it talks about how the U.S. president can launch a nuclear attack without asking Congress. And if you think about it, it's kind of scary because this means that one person has so much power to a point where they could start a war. And the New York Times asked members of Congress what they think about this, and most of them didn't even seem interested in changing the rule. So basically, this article, it says how we need laws to make sure no president can make that decision, on their own. This connects to the Frontline film for the week, in terms of how Kim Jong-un has total control, just like the U.S. president does with nukes. And both the film and the article show how dangerous it can actually be when one person has too much power, especially over weapons. And the film shows North Korea threatening our countries with nukes, and the article says that the U.S. could do the same if the president makes a bad call. The article wants basically more rules to stop that from happening, just like the film shows people in North Korea kind of, quietly fighting back against this over control. So some interesting stuff from the article is that the U.S. presidents have full control, like I said, and they've had that control since the 1940s. Congress could change that, but they haven't. Most Republicans also, they didn't want to talk about it. Only one actually said he was okay with Trump having that power. And if the U.S. adds, rules to stop one person from launching nukes, it could show the world how seriously we take the idea of peace. So that kind of basically covers the first article and how it connects to the Frontline film for the week. And then to go into my second article titled Trump's Tariffs Pause is Less Than Meets the Eye. So some main points covered in this article is that Trump made big changes to trade rules without planning them carefully. And essentially, he put high taxes called tariffs on stuff we buy from other countries, and they make things more expensive for, regular people in the U.S. and countries like Canada, Mexico, China. They all got hit the hardest. Trump's choices hurt the economy, and this is what the article says, that his choices hurt the economy and made the U.S. look bad to other countries. So even his own team couldn't keep up. He changed plans while they were explaining them to Congress. And the goal was to help American factories, but doing it so fast didn't give companies time to prepare. And this editorial says his trade war caused a lot of damage without fixing the problems he wanted to solve. I personally don't agree with this view, but again, this is what the article is discussing, and they're claiming that it was the wrong call. Some interesting facts about the article are that Trump's plan taxed imports from Lesotho, which is a small poor country, at 50%. Some Chinese products were hit with tariffs as high as 145%. These were basically the highest import taxes over 100 years, and Trump changed the policy in the middle of a congressional hearing, which confused his own staff apparently. And lastly, the US had spent decades promoting free trade before Trump suddenly had reversed this course. So that's the second article. And I find it interesting, honestly, because I'm not very informed on all these things, but it is interesting to hear how it affects other parts of the world, how the decisions that it makes you like think about it, how the decisions that we make and our president makes, the government makes, how big of an impact it has on other countries and the lives of individuals hundreds and thousands of miles away. It does get you thinking. And then to go into my article of interest, which is titled "The Authoritarian Endgame on Higher Education." So this one covers how leaders try to make a democracy more like a dictatorship. And, they often go after the media, like the courts and universities, and how leaders like Putin, Orban, from Hungary, how they have weakened colleges and they shut down academic voices that disagree with their views and, what they think. So it talks about how Trump hasn't gone that far, but he's done very similar things. Some examples of how he's done similar things is firing watchdogs and national security officials, cutting funding for universities and research, and even, I believe it stated, suing media outlets and trying to control judges. So Trump is also attacking higher education in ways of like how he cuts grants for specific schools. He let go of half of the workers in the education department, and I believe it was slashing federal funds, which I stated before. So these cuts hurt schools' ability to work, such as doing that medical research and scientific research. And colleges have real problems like being expensive or out of touch, but Trump's actions, it states how they don't actually fix the issue at hand, and they might actually be making things worse in the long run. And then some interesting stuff about this article is that Putin had said, "Wars are won by teachers," and that shows how powerful education is in shaping minds. The U.S. cut $800 million in grants to Johns Hopkins. That was something very shocking to hear. That is obviously a big number, and that goes to show, how much was affected by a decision like that. How much of the funding for research and medical research was affected due to a decision of cutting grants for students who may need them. And Trump's move to punish Colombia was over its response to campus anti-Semitism. Despite the cuts, American universities still lead the world in Nobel Prizes and medical research. And lastly, another shocking thing was even politicians who attack colleges still go to them for top doctors programs when they're sick. So it kind of it's like a two-way, a two-faced thing, if that makes sense. So those are my 3 articles. My first one dealing with the nuclear authority and how it relates to the Frontline film. Trump's tariff was the second one up for my international issue. And the third one was the authoritarian endgame on higher education for my article of interest. Thank you for listening.